بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Sisters, they are involved in watching porn, and we know this is haram, unlawful, impermissible. But the question is, how do we stop this porn addiction in this sex-driven society? So the first thing is, we need to ask repentance from Allah, ask forgiveness from Allah the Almighty sincerely and excessively. The second thing is, we need to get married if we are not married. And remember, getting married is not as easy as saying it, because there are financial constraints, there are other commitments where you have to fulfill each other's rights, etc. So if we are young, then we need to make sure we are financially stable. So work towards becoming financially stable by applying for a job, getting a proper job. If we cannot get a proper job, acquire a good education, etc. So work towards getting married. Now, there are many brothers and sisters that are married and are involved in watching porn. So for them, and also for those brothers and sisters that cannot get married straight away due to financial constraints, etc. Then the third thing is fasting. We have been encouraged in hadith that if we cannot get married and we are young, then we should fast. But if we are married and we are involved in watching porn, then we can still act upon this, i.e. fasting. Why? Because fasting, when we fast, we don't eat, we stay hungry. And it is actually food that increases our sexual urge, sexual desires. How? Because food, it creates blood in our body, and blood, it creates semen, and it's through semen that we become sexually active or become more sexually active, or our sexual desires are increased, etc. So if we fast, then this will not happen. Or at the least, if we cannot fast, then eat less. Don't overeat, don't eat too much. Avoid eating food that increases our sexual desires. Another thing is, keep yourself occupied, whether in sports or in generally doing good deeds. Because if you keep yourself occupied, then it will keep you away from watching porn or unlawful activities as such. Why? Because remember, if you don't keep yourself occupied, then your brain will be idle. And an idle man's brain is the devil's workshop. When we stay unoccupied, we keep ourselves idle, then Shaitan, he whispers thoughts in our minds, our desires overtake us, and unfortunately, we then become involved in such unlawful activities. So we need to keep ourselves occupied at all times, obviously in permissible activities, in good deeds. Another thing is, don't stay on your own. Make sure you always have other people around you, and obviously people that are of good, i.e. good company. So stay in the company of good friends, or stay in the company of siblings, brothers and sisters, parents. Even when you're at home, then try not to stay on your own in your room. Stay in the company of your brothers, sisters, siblings. Even if you have to do some work, make sure you're in the presence of someone. Sometimes what happens, if we are young, for example, we'll be doing homework, and then our desires overtake us. We are doing homework and Shaitan whispers thoughts, and then we become indulged, unfortunately, in these unlawful activities. So don't stay on your own. Another thing is, whatever things we use to watch these unlawful things, so whether it's a PC, whether it is a laptop, whether it's our phone, then put such screensavers that remind us of the hereafter, remind us of Allah, remind us of the Quran and Hadith. So put screensavers such as the Quran, screensavers such as photos of these cameras which have written on them, Allah is watching, or screensavers of the graveyard, etc. So things that will make us remember Allah, Quran, Hadith, the hereafter, and keep us away from these sinful things. Lastly, but not leastly, the remembrance of Allah is of utmost importance in keeping us away from such unlawful activities. And remember, under the remembrance of Allah, we've got the 5-time daily prayers. So being punctual with the 5-time daily prayers, this is a must, because Allah the Almighty mentions in the Quran that it is salah, the 5-time daily salah, that keeps us away from unlawful activities. So we need to keep ourselves occupied in the remembrance of Allah through being punctual with our 5-time daily prayers, reciting the Quran on a daily basis, listening to Islamic lectures, staying in the company of good people that talk about Allah the Almighty, so sitting in speeches of pious and good scholars. So we need to make sure we remember Allah excessively as much as possible.
La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah alayhi salatullah wa alihi wal ahibba. La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah alayhi salatullah wa alihi